This idea was that Africans could do for self what they wanted, regardless of, external import. And the understanding of how powerful that idea was is documented by W.B. Du Bois in his book, The World and Africa. You said earlier that he was the one person that attended all the five. In fact, he said in his book there that from the first one up to the last one, it was made difficult for the delegates to travel by the countries where they are.
Yes.
And the reason is simple. We cannot possibly allow these people to come together. But when they did and they got in power, did you think they stopped? Your guess is as good as mine. They didn't. And how did we know that? There was a book that came out in 2022, which is White Malice by Susan Williams, where she talked about how the CIA went after all of these leaders simply because you were, quote unquote, pro-people. No, you have to do our bidding. So they started with the gentleman in Congo, Patrice Lumumba, walked their way through West Africa, Modibo Keita, Silvio Olympio, Kwame Nkrumah, Amilcar Cabral, Mondale in Mozambique, Samora Machel, and even up to recently, Thomas Sankara. And they have not stopped. So again, like the good comrade said, follow Sankara. Understand, you can read Sankara Speaks. In there, all his speeches are there. His ideology is down there. The kind of books he read is also in there. So that way, you could have a concrete idea of what he envisioned for Africa. And that could be a working ideology. And so that said, we've come to the end of another episode of African News Review. And the time flies when we're having fun. But that said, any final thoughts, comrade?
Aluta continua. I mean, we are witnessing, this is a revolution. A revolution is ongoing. A revolution, as Malcolm said, I think was it a message to the grassroots. He said, many of us, we can't stomach a revolution. A revolution is not really peaceful. It's turbulent. It's messy. It's unpleasant. But, it's transition. And it's amazing that, Malcolm, because it's impossible for anybody to transition that quickly, right? From the Malcolm from 64 to 65, the year he was expelled from the Nation of Islam. So in March, he's out. By February, by the time Malcolm is killed, he's talking about class struggle, about capitalism, about exploitation of laborers. I don't believe anybody can learn all of that within less than a 1 year period. I think even when Malcolm was adhering to the rhetoric of the Nation of Islam, blue-eyed devils and all that, Malcolm was already actually studying, political economy. And that's what it takes. And he said it. He said, listen, revolution is bloody, but at the end, that's how transition occurs. He discussed China. And at that time, China was revolutionary, but China was not even an industrial power yet. Imagine. He could see all of that. So I say all this suggests that Africa right now is going through that type of transition. And once we have people who are in control of our natural resources, I think it's a matter of 15 years to 20 years before our economies are transformed. So those are my final words for today.
Yes,